First portion. Bereshit Genesis chapter 25. Verse 19. The following are the descendants of Isaac, son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac. יתואל תולד את יצחק בן אברהם הוליד את יצחק. ואלה תולדות יצחק. The following are the descendants of Isaac, that is Jacob and Esau, who are mentioned later in this section. Avraham holid et Yitzchak. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Since scripture wrote Isaac son of Abraham, it was also required to say Abraham was the father of Isaac, because the scoffers of the generation were saying that Sarah had become pregnant by Avimelech, for she had lived many years with Abraham and had not become pregnant by him. What did the Holy One, blessed be he, do to disprove them? He made Isaac's facial features similar to those of Abraham, and thus all could testify that Abraham was Isaac's father. And that is what is meant by what is written here: Isaac was the son of Abraham, for there is evidence that Abraham was indeed the father of Isaac. Verse 20. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel the Aramean of Padan Aram, and sister of Laban the Aramean. ויהי יצחק בן 40 שנה בככתבו את רבקה בת בתואל הארמי מפדן ארם אחרות לבן הארמי לעולה אישה. בן 40 שנה, 40 years old. For when Abraham came from Mount Moriah, he was informed that Rebekah, Isaac's designated mate, was born, and Isaac was then 37 years old, for at that point Sarah died, and from the birth of Isaac until the act of the binding of Isaac, at which time Sarah died, was 37 years, for she was 90 years old when Isaac was born, and 127 years old when she died. ASAT says Sarah's lifetime was 127 years, making Isaac then 37 years old, and at that time Rebekah was born. He waited 3 years until she was fit for marriage, and then married her. But Bethuel mipadan Aram achot Lavan, daughter of Bethuel the Aramean of Padan Aram, and sister of Laban. Was it not already written that she was Bethuel's daughter and Laban's sister, and from Padan Aram? It is repeated here, however, to recount her praise, that she was the daughter of a wicked man, the sister of a wicked man, and her hometown was a place of evil people, yet she did not learn from their evil deeds. Mipadan Aram of Padan Aram. Because there were 2 Arams in proximity, Aram Naharaim and Aram Tzova, the verse calls them Padan Eper, having the same meaning as Tzemed Bakar, which translates as Padan Tavorin, Eper of cattle. Some explain Padan Aram as meaning the field of Aram, for in Arabic a field is called Padan. Isaac pleaded with God at one corner of the room, while his wife did the same at the opposite corner of the room, for she was barren. God responded to Isaac's plea. Thus, his wife Rebekah conceived. כ"ויתר יצחק ליהובה הלנככה אשתבו, כי יקרה היא בו, ויתר לא יאהבה ותהר רבקה אשתבו. Vayater pleaded that he prayed much and repeatedly. Vayater lo, God responded to his plea that he allowed himself to be implored, appeased, and persuaded by him. I say that every use of the term eter is an expression of persistence and increasing, and similarly we find with the thick vatar, smoke of the incense, that is an abundance of ascending smoke, and similarly, and you have multiplied v'hataratem your words against me, and similarly, and excessive naitarot are the kisses of an enemy, they seem too numerous, and are thus burdensome. Ankrusra in Old French. Lenochacha ishtavo, opposite his wife. He stood in one corner and prayed, and she stood in the other corner and prayed. Vayater lo, God responded to his plea, to his, but not to hers. Since there is no comparison between the prayer of a righteous person Isaac, who is the child of a righteous person Abraham, and the prayer of a righteous person Rebekah, who is the child of a wicked person Bethuel, God therefore responded to his Isaac's prayer and not to hers. The children struggled within her. She said, if the pain of pregnancy is so great, why did I pray for it? So she went to the academy of Shem and ever to inquire of God. ויתרוצצו הבנים בקרבה ותאמר אם כן למה זה אנכי ותלך לדרשת יהובה. ויתרוצצו, the children struggled. This verse obviously calls for an interpretation, since it does not explain what the struggling was about, yet it writes as Rebekah's reaction literally. If this is how it is, why did I pray for this? Our rabbis expounded the word ויתרוצצו as being an expression of Ritzah, running when she passed by the entrances of the Torah academies of Shem and Eva. Jacob would hurry and wriggle to try and come out, and when she passed by the entrance of a place of idol worship, Esau would wriggle to try and come out. Another explanation, they struggled with each other and fought over the inheritance of two worlds, this world and the world to come. Vateomer imken, she said, literally, if this is how it is that the pain of pregnancy is so great. Lamaza anochi, literally, why? Then, did I long and pray to become pregnant? Vatelech lidrash so, she went to inquire that to the house of study Beit Midrash of Shem. Lideresheta to inquire of God. That he tell her what would be with her in the end. God told Shem to say to her, the progenitors of two nations are in your womb. Two powers will diverge the moment they emerge from within you. Thus, the upper hand will pass from one power to the other and back again. Nonetheless, even when the elder has the upper hand, the elder and his descendants will always serve the younger and his descendants. כגביואמר יהובה לשני גויים כתיב גיים בבית נחו שני לאומים ממאיך יפרדו ולאו מלמי אמץ ורב יאב צעיר. ויאמר hela God said to her through a messenger. Shem was told through divine inspiration, and he told her. Shnei guyam bevit necha, two nations are in your womb. Although read as goyim nations its written game similar to geim, meaning aristocrats. This alludes to Antoninus and Rabbi Yehuda Hanesai, whose tables never lacked radish or lettuce, neither in summer nor in winter. Ushnei laumim, two powers, the word laom always denotes a kingdom. Mime'ai chiparedu will diverge literally from inside your body, that is, they will separate immediately upon emerging from the womb, one to his wickedness and the other to his guilelessness. Mile'om yamatz literally will be stronger than the other kingdom. They will never be equally great, for when one rises, the other will fall, and Soit says Tyre shall be filled with the one that is laid waste, that is Tyre of the kingdom of Esau only became powerful through the destruction of Jerusalem of the kingdom of Jacob. Her pregnancy reached full term, there were twins in her womb. Ked veimalau yamea halaledet vahine tomim bevitna. Veimalu yamea, her pregnancy reached full term. These words are superfluous and only added to or contrast with the case of Tamar, about whom its written at the time of her giving birth Betli Deter, because she did not complete her full term of pregnancy, since she gave birth to them after only 7 months. Vehine tomim, there were twins. The word tomim here is written without the aleph and the yod, but in the case of Tamar the word tomim is written in full, because they both twins were righteous, but here one was righteous and the other was wicked. The first one emerged ruddy and full of hair all over, like a woolen cloak that is covered with hair. So everyone present at his birth called him Esau Isav, from Ajui completed. Kahevetze harishon admoni kulo keaderet se'ar veikra'u shemo Esau. Admoni ruddy. An indication that he would shed blood. Kulo keaderet se'ar means he was full of hair, like a woolen garment aderet that is completely covered with hair, floshed in Old French. Veikra'u shemo Esau, they named him Esau. Everyone called him Esau because he was fully made asuya and complete with hair, like one who is many years old. His brother then emerged, and his hand was grasping Esau's heel. God named his second son Jacob Yaakov, from Akef heel. Isaac was in his 60th year when Rebekah gave birth to them. חווה אחרי כן יצא אחיו וידו אוחזתה בעקב עשו ויקרא שמו יעקב, ויצחק בן 60 שנה בלדת אותם. ואחרי כן יצא אחיו, וגו his brother then emerged. I have heard an Agadic explanation that explains this verse in a way that concurs with its straightforward meaning. Jacob rightfully held onto Esau to hold him back. Jacob was created from the first drop of seed and Esau from a second. Go and learn this idea from a tube with only one narrow opening. Insert 2 stones into it, one after the other. The one inserted first will come out last, and the one inserted last will come out first. Consequently, Esau, who was conceived last, came out first, and Jacob, who was conceived first, came out last. Jacob therefore tried to hold Esau back, so that he would be born first just as he was conceived first, and he would be the first out of his mother's womb and claim the birthright rightfully. Ba'akev Esau, Esau's heel. This was a sign that Esau will be unable to complete his period of sovereignty before Jacob arises and takes his power from him. Vayikra shmo Yaakov, he named him Jacob, that is the Holy One, blessed be he, named him Esau, saying, You gave your firstborn a name, I shall also give my firstborn son a name. That is what is meant by, he named him Jacob. Another explanation it was his father who called him Jacob Yaakov, on account of his holding on to Esau's heel Akev. Ben 60 shana in his 60th year. 10 years passed from the time he married her until she was in her 13th year and capable of childbearing. And these following 10 years he hoped and waited for her to conceive, just as his father had done for Sarah. When she did not then conceive, he knew that she was barren and he prayed for her. He did not wish to marry a bondwoman as his father had done, because he had been sanctified as an unblemished scent offering on Mount Moriah. The boys grew. Esau became an expert in ensnaring his father. He was a man who spent his time in the field. Jacob was a guileless man. He went to live in the tents of Shem and ever to study the Torah. כזויגדלו הנערים ויהי עש האיש יודע ציד איש שדה ויעקבי איש תם ישב אוהלים. ויגדלו. ויהי Esau, the boys grew. Esau became. As long as they were young, they were not distinguishable by their actions and no one paid much attention to their characters. However, once they reached the age of 13, this one, Jacob, went his way to the houses of study, and the other, Esau, went his way to idol worship. Yodea tzayde, an expert in ensnaring, that as he knew how to trap Letzuda and deceive his father with his mouth, asking him, Father, how does one tithe salt and hay? His father thus thought that he was meticulous in observing the commandments. Ish sadeh, a man of the field. Explain this literally: a man without a proper occupation, who hunts beasts and birds with his bow. Tam guileless, that as he was not familiar with all these deceitful things, his heart and his speech were consonant. A person who is not sharp at deceiving is called Ta'am, a straightforward person. Yeshev Ohalim, living in tents, that is the tent of Shem and the tent of Ever. Isaac loved Esau, both for the game he provided from his hunting and because he was deceived by his cunning words, while Rebekah loved Jacob. כחווה אהב יצחק את עשו כי ציד בפיו, ורבקה אוהבת את יעקב. Befiv, literally in his mouth. The straightforward meaning SS Onkelos translates it mitzeda va'achil, he ate what Esau hunted us. Befiv means in the mouth of Isaac. But the midrashic explanation is befiv means in the mouth of Esau, that Esau would ensnare Isaac and deceive him with his words. Jacob was cooking a stew. Esau came in from the field, exhausted. כתויזד יעק ונזיד ויבא עשו מן השדה, והוא עייף. ויזד, an expression of cooking, as Onkelos translates it uvashel. והוא עייף, literally, and he was exhausted from murdering. As it says in connection with murder, for my soul, as exhausted I fought through murderers. Verse 30, Esau said to Jacob, Now feed me a gulp of that red stuff, for I'm exhausted. He was therefore given the nickname Adam Red. לויאמר עשו אל יעקב הליתני נא מן האדם האדום הזה, כי עייף אנכי על כן קרא אדום. Haliteni, this word means I will open my mouth, and you pour a lot into it. As we have learned in the Mishnah, one must not force feed a camel, but one may pour food into its mouth melitin. Min haadom of that red stuff. They were red lentils. On that day Abraham had died, which God had brought about so that Abraham not see his grandson Esau falling into bad ways, and then there would not have been a realization of the good old age that the Holy One, blessed be He, had promised him. Therefore, the Holy One, blessed be He, shortened his life by 5 years, for Isaac lived 180 years, but Abraham lived only 175 years. Jacob was cooking lentils with which to feed the mourner, the customary first meal. Why lentils? Because they are similar to a wheel, and the state of mourning is like a wheel that revolves in the world. Furthermore, just as lentils have an mouth opening, so, too, the mourner has an mouth, for he is forbidden to speak to greet others. Therefore, the custom is to feed the mourner eggs for his first meal, because they are round and have an mouth, just as a mourner has an mouth. As we say in Mod Katan, during the first 3 days a mourner does not return a greeting to anyone, and certainly does not initiate greetings from the 30th or the 7th day. He may return a greeting to one who mistakenly greeted him, but not initiate greetings. Jacob replied, Sell me your birthright, irrevocably, as all the transaction be as clear as day. לויאמר יעקב, מכרח היום את בכורתך לי. מכרח היום, its meaning ISS Onkelos translates it כיום די להן as this day that is just like the day is clear, as sell me the birthright by a clear, unequivocal sale. בכורתך, your birthright. Jacob asked him to sell it because the sacrificial service was then carried out by firstborns, and Jacob said, "This wicked man is not worthy to offer sacrifices for the Holy One, blessed be he." Esau said, "Look, I am going to eventually die anyway. Of what you say as a birthright to me?" לבויאמר עשה, הנה אנוכי הולך למות, ולמהזה לי בכורה. הנה אנוכי הולך למות, look, I am going to die. The birthright is unstable and transitory, for the privilege of service will not be carried out by the firstborns for all time, for the tribe of Levi will later receive it. Furthermore, Esau said, "What is the nature of the service?" Jacob answered him, "Many prohibitions, punishments, and the acts subject to the death penalty are associated with it. As we have learned, these are liable for the death penalty those who enter the holy temple to serve having drunk a riot of wine or with hair grown long." Esau replied, "I am going to die because of it. So what wish have I for it?" Jacob said, "Make an oath to me this day." So he swore to him, and sold his birthright to Jacob. לגויאמר יעקב הישבעה לי כיום וישבע לו, וימכר את בכורתו ליעקב. Jacob then gave Esau bread and lentil stew, he ate and drank, and got up and left. Thus Esau spurned the birthright. לדוי יעקב נתן לעשו לחם ונזיד עדשים ויאכל וישתה ויקם, וילך ויבז עשה את הבכורה. ויבז עשהו, thus Esau spurned. Scripture testifies to his wickedness, that he despised the service of the Omnipresent. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 26. Verse 1. There was a famine in the land, apart from the first famine that had been in the days of Abraham. So Isaac went to dwell with Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. ויהי רעבה בארץ מלבדה הרעב הראשון אשר היה בימי אברהם וילך יצחק אל אבימלך מלך פלישתים גררה. God appeared to him and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Rather, live in the part of the Holy Land of which I will tell you." בוישראל יהוה ויאמר, אל תרד מצרימה שכן בארץ אשר אומר אליך. אל תרד מצרימה, do not go down to Egypt, for he was meaning to go down to Egypt, just as his father had in a time of famine. God therefore said to him, "Do not go down to Egypt, for you are an unblemished descent offering, and to live outside the land of Israel is not fitting for you. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with you and bless you, for I will give all these lands to you and your descendants, and I will fulfill the oath that I made to your father Abraham. גגור בארץ הזועת ואהיה עמך ואברכך כי לך ולזרעך אתן את כל הארץ תאל והקימותי את השבועה אשר נשבעתי לאברהם אביך. האלה est the same as האלה these. I will make your descendants so numerous that you will not be able to count them, just as it is impossible to count the stars of the sky, and give all these lands to your descendants. All the nations of the earth will bless themselves by mentioning the names of your descendants. When someone will want to bless his children, he will say, "May you be like Isaac's children." דוהי רביתי את זרעך ככוכבי השמיים ונתתי לזרעך את כל הארץ תאל, והתברכו בזרעך כאל גבוהי הארץ. והתברכו בזרעך will bless themselves by your descendants, that as a man will tell his son, "May your descendants be like the descendants of Isaac." And so is the meaning of this phrase wherever it occurs throughout Scripture. This is the classic example with Yubecha will the Israelites invoke blessings Yivarech on their sons, saying, "May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh." We also find this in connection with curses. The woman will be a curse. That is that one who curses his foe will say, "May you be like that woman." Similarly, and you will leave your name as an oath for my chosen ones. That is that one who swears will say, "May I be like so and so if I have done such and such a thing." I confer all these blessings upon you because your father Abraham heeded my voice and observed my restrictions, my commandments, my rules, and my instructions. העקב אשר שמע אברהם בקולי וישמור משמרתי מצוותי חוקבותי ותורותי. שמע אברהם בקולי, Abraham heeded my voice when I put him to the test. וישמור משמרתי and observed my restrictions. This refers to or decrees ordained to or distance a person from transgressing prohibitions written in the Torah, such as the prohibition of marriage between relatives of the second degree, and the rabbinical prohibitions of doing certain acts on the Sabbath. Mitzautai my commandments. This refers to all those matters which, even if they were not written in the Torah, would have been fitting to or be given as commandments, such as the prohibition of robbery and murder. Chukevotay my laws. This refers to all those things against which the evil inclination and the nations of the world argue, such as the prohibitions of eating swine and wearing garments made of a mixture of wool and linen, for which there are no apparent reasons but the king's decree and rules imposed upon his servants. Vetorotai and my instructions. This comes to include the oral law, the laws given orally to Moses at Mount Sinai. Footnotes 1. Genesis 23.1 2. 1 סמואל 11.7 3. יזיקיאל 8:11 4. יזיקיאל 35:13 5. Proverbs 27.26 6. יזיקיאל 26.2 7. Genesis 38:27 8. ג'רמיה 4:31 9. שבת 155b 10. Genesis 15:15 11. מוד קטן 21b 12. סנהדרין 22b 13. Genesis 40:18 14. Numbers 5:27 15. Isaiah 65:15 Second portion. Bereshit Genesis chapter 26. Verse 6 Isaac settled in Gerar. Viveshev Yitzchak Bigrar. When the local people asked about his wife, he said, "She is my sister." He purposely misled them because he was afraid to say to them, "She is my wife," lest he thought to himself, "The local people kill me on account of Rebecca, because she is of good facial complexion." וישאלו אנשי המקום לאשתבו ויאמר תהיבו כי יראה להמרישתהי פני הארגוני אנשי המקום אל רבקה כי טובת מראה הוא. לאשתבו literally to his wife means about his wife. As in say about me li, he is my brother. After Isaac had been there a long time, he decided that he no longer needed to be circumspect. Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out the window of his palace and caught sight of Isaac gladdening his wife Rebecca in the course of marital intimacy. חוויהי כי ירקו לו שם הימים וישקף אבימלך מלך פליסטאים בעד החלון וירא, והנה יצחק מצחק את רבקה אשתבו. כי ירקו after Isaac had been there a long time. Isaac said, I no longer need to worry, since they have not molested her until now, and he was not careful to be cautious in his actions. וישקף אבימלך וגומר Abimelech looked. He saw him having marital relations. Abimelech summoned Isaac and said, she is really your wife? How could you have said, she is my sister? Isaac answered him, for I thought, lest I die because of her. ויקרא אבימלך על יצחק ויאמר, אך הנה אשתך היבו, ואיך אמרתיה אך תהיבו, ויאמר אליו יצחק כי אמרתאי פן המהות עליה. Verse 10 Abimelech then said, What have you done to us? I, the most preeminent one among the people, could easily have had relations with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us. ויאמר אבימלך מה זאת עשית לנו כמעט שכב אחד העם את אשתך, והבאת עלינו אשם. אחד העם means the outstanding one among the people, that is the king. והבאת עלינו אשם and you would have brought guilt upon us. If you would have already lain with her, you would have brought guilt upon us. Abimelech issued an order of warning to all the people whosoever lays a finger on this man or his wife will surely be put to death. ויצאו אבימלך את כל העם לאמר הנוגע באיש הזה, ובאשתבו מבות יומת. Isaac sowed grain in that region and in that year. He reaped 100-fold more than he expected, for God had blessed him. יבוא יזרע יצחק בארץ ההיא וימצא בשנה ההיא ומאה שערים ויברכהו יהובה. בארץ ההיא in that region, even though it is not considered like the land of Israel proper, that is the land of the 7 nations. בשנה ההיא in that year, even though it was not a normal year, for it was a year of famine. בארץ ההיא בשנה ההיא in that region. In that year. Why are both mentioned? To tell us that the land was particularly harsh, and D the year was likewise harsh, because the two factors mentioned above each also negatively affected the other, and D yet he found 100 she'arim 100-fold more. They estimated how much it was likely to produce, and DIT in fact produced 100 times as much. However, a rabbi said that this estimation took place after the produce had grown, for the purpose of separating tithes. Footnotes 1. 23 דקות. Third portion. Bereshit Genesis chapter 26. Verse 13. Thus, the man prospered, and D continued to prosper until he became extremely wealthy. ויגדל האיש וילך הלוך וגדל עד כי גדל מאוד. כי גדל מאוד, he became extremely wealthy to the extent that people were saying, better the dung of Isaac's mules than Avimelech's silver and gold. He owned flocks and herds and many business enterprises, and the Philistines envied him. ויהי לו מקנה הצאן ומקנה בקר ועבודי הרבה ויקנאו אותו פלישתים. ועבודי הרבה means much work in Old French Ouvrin. The word avodah refers to one piece of work, whereas avodah is a collective noun that means many activities. The Philistines blocked up all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of his father Abraham, and filled them with earth. טבח על הבארות אשר חפרו עבדי אביו בימי אברהם, אביו סיתמום פלישתים וימלאום עפר. Sitamum Plistim the Philistines blocked up, for they said, they are an impediment to us, because of invading troops that may attack us. Onkelos translates these words as Tamonin Plishte, which is an expression of stopping up, and the soit is used in Talmudic language stops up matamtem the heart. Avimelech said to Isaac, go away from us, for you have become much more powerful than we are. תזווה אבימלך אל יצחק לך מימנו כי עצמת ממנו מאוד. Isaac went away from there and camped in the Gerar valley, and settled there. יזווה משם יצחק ויתן בנחל גרר וישב שם. בנחל הגרר in the Gerar valley far away from the city. Isaac redug the other wells of water that had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, which the Philistines had blocked up after Abraham's death, and gave them the same names that his father had given them. יחווה ישב יצחק ויחפר או את בארת המים אשר חפרו בימי אברהם אביו ויסתמום פלישתים אחרי אבות אברהם, ויקרא להן שם אבות כשמות אשר קרא להן אביו. וישב ויחפור Isaac redug. The wells that had been dug in the days of his father Abraham and the Philistines had blocked up before Isaac journeyed away from Gerar, he redug them. Isaac's servants then dug elsewhere in the Gerar valley, and found a well of fresh spring water there. יתוויחפרו עבדי יצחק בנחל וימצאו שם באר מים חיים. Verse 20. The shepherds of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's shepherds, saying, since we use this land to pasture our flocks, the water you have discovered is ours. Isaac named the well Isaac contention, because they had contended with him. ויריבו רועי גרר עם רועי יצחק לאמר לנו המים ויקרא שמעבר עסק כי התעסקו עמו. Esek Isaac literally, affair. Here means dispute. Ki hitasku imo means the Philistines had engaged him in strife and dispute over it. They dug another well, and they quarreled over that one, too, so Isaac named it Sitna harassment. כויחפרו באר אחרת ויריבו גם עליה ויקרא שמה Sitna. Sitna newsment in Old French harassment. He moved on from there and dug yet another well, and they did not quarrel over it, so he named it Recovert open spaces, saying, for now God has granted us ample space to expand, and we will flourish materially in the land. ויעתק משם ויחפורה באר אחרת ולא רבו עליה ויקרא שמה רחובבות ויאמר, כי עתה היא רכיב יהובה לנו ופרינו בארץ. ופרינו בארץ, although the verb para usually refers to having children, here its meaning ISS Onkelos translates it, וניפוש בארעה and we shall expand in the land. Footnotes 1. Pasachem 42a. Fourth portion. Bereshit Genesis chapter 26. Verse 23. From there, he went up to Beersheba. כגביה על משם באר שבה. God appeared to him that night and said, I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid because of all this contention, for I am with you. I will bless you and make your descendants numerous on account of my servant Abraham. כי אדווה ישראל אבי אובי בלילה ההוא ויאמר אנוכי אלוהי אברהם אביך אל תירא כי איתך אנוכי וברכתיך והרביתי את זרעך בעבור אברהם עבדי. Isaac built an altar there and invoked God. He pitched his tent there, and that Isaac's servants dug yet another well, but did not discover water immediately. כהבייבן שם מזבח ויקרא בשם יהובה וית שם ההולאו, ויחו שם עבדי צחק באר. In the meantime, Abimelech came to him from Gerar, together with a group of some of his friends and Pichol, chief of his troops. כבבה אבימלך הלך אליו מגרר ואחוזתי מרעהו ופיכל שרי צבאו. ואחוזת מרעהו its meaning ISS Onkelos translates IT, וסיעת מרחמוהי with a group of some of his friends. There are some, however, who explain מרעהו with a mem being an integral part of the word s in the 30 friends מרעים of Samson as or that the word ואחוזת should express a construct form, that is the group of his friends. IT would not, however, be property or speak of royalty in this way, to said the group of his friends, for if so, this would imply that the whole group of his friends he took with him and that he had only one group of friends. One should therefore explain IT the first way. Do not wonder about the taf of va'achuzat, even though IT does not express a construct form, for there are similar examples in scripture, a help Ezrat from the adversary and drunk sechurat but not from wine. Achuzat means an association or group of people, so called because they are held nechazin together. Isaac said to them, Why have you come to me, seeing that you hate me and therefore sent me away from you? כז ויאמר עליהם יצחק מדוע באתם אלי, ואתם שנאתם אותי ותשלחוני מאיתכם. They replied, We have seen about your father and seen regarding you, too, that God has been with you. So we said let a solemn oath made between us and your father now continue to be in force between us and you, and let us make a covenant with you. כחוויומרו ראו ראינו כי היה יהובה, עמך ונאמר תהי נעלה בינותינו בינינו ובינך ונכרתה ברית עמך. ראו ראינו we have seen. In the original, the verb iswto indicate the meaning we have seen it with your father and we have seen it with you. תהי נעלה בינותינו, וגול at a solemn oath literally between us now be. That is the solemn oath that exists between both of us benotenu since the days of your father, may it now also be between us and you benenu uvenecha. That you will do us no evil, just as we did you no harm when we asked you to your leave, and just as we treated you only with kindness and sent you off in peace. Now, please treat us in the same manner, you who are blessed by God. כתים תעשה עמנו רעה כאשר לא נגענוך, וכאשר עשינו עמך רקטוב ונשלחך בשלום התאה ברוך יהובה. לא נגענוך we did you no harm when we told you, go away from us. התאה you that I ask you, too, act with us likewise. Footnotes 1. Judges 14 ו-11 דקות. 2. Psalm 60.13 3. Isaiah 51:21 4. Genesis 26:16 5th portion Bereshit Genesis chapter 26 Verse 30 Isaac agreed to their proposal. He prepared them a feast and they ate and drank. לוויעש להם משתאה ויאכלו וישתהו. They got up early in the morning and made an oath to each other. Isaac then sent them on their way, and they departed from him in peace. לוישכימו בבוקר וישבעו איש לאחיו וישלחם יצחק וילכו מאיתו בשלום. On that very day, Isaac's servants came and told him about the well they had dug, and they said to him, We have found water. לבוויהי או ביום ההוא ויבואו עבדי יצחק ויגעדו לאו על אודות הבאר אשר חפרו, ויאמרו לאו מצאנו מים. He named the well Shiva from Shavuah oath. The name of the city was therefore redesignated as Beersheba well of the oath, and this remains its name to this very day. לגבי יקרא אותה שיבעה על כן שמהעירה באר שבע עד היום הזה. שבעה שיבה. It was so called on account of the aforementioned treaty. When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Basmat the daughter of Elon the Hittite. לדוויהי עשהו בן 40 שנה, ויקח ישהה את יהודית בת הברי החיתי, ואת בסמת בת האלון החיתי. בן 40 שנה years old. Esau was compared to a swine, as it says about his offspring, a swine of the forest ravages Israel. When a swine lies down, it stretches out its split hooves as if to say, "See, I am a spiritually undefiled animal." Similarly, these descendants of Esau Rabbe and extort, yet show themselves off as reputable. For 40 years Esau would abduct wives from their husbands and abuse them, yet when he was 40 years old he said, "And my father married when he was 40, I will do the same." These wives were spiritually rebellious toward Isaac and Rebekah. Levateyena merat ruach litzchak ulrivka. Morat ruach, this is an expression of rebelliousness, as in you have been rebelling mamirim. All their actions served to provoke and cause anguish. Litzchak ulrivka to Isaac and Rebekah. Because they worshipped idols. Bereshit Genesis chapter 27. Verse 1. Isaac had grown old. His eyesight had become dim. He summoned his eldest son Esau and said to him, "My son," and he answered him, "Here I am." ויהי כי זקן יצחק ותכהנה עיניו מראת ויקרא את עשו ובנו הגדול, ויאמר אליו בני ויאמר אליו הנני. ותכהנה, his eyesight had become dim from the smoke of the idolatrous incense offered by these women, Esau's wives. Another explanation: when he was bound on the altar and his father wished to slaughter him, at that moment the heavens opened and the ministering angels saw what was happening and were weeping, and their tears dripped and fell into his eyes. Thus, his eyesight was dimmed. Another explanation: his eyesight became dim in order to enable Jacob to receive the blessings. Isaac said, "See, I have now grown old, I do not know the day of my death. Bevayoamer hinehen zakanti lo yadati yomoti. Lo yadati yomoti, I do not know the day of my death." Rabbi Yahashua ben Korcha said if a person approaches the age 80 which his parents died, he should worry for 5 years before that age and for 5 years after. Isaac was 123 years old and he said, "Perhaps I will only reach my mother's age," and she died at 127, and I am now within 5 years of her age. Therefore I do not know the day of my death. Maybe I will only reach my mother's age, or maybe I will reach my father's age. So therefore, now, please, sharpen your weapons, your sword and the arrows for your bow, and go out to the field and trap me some ownerless game. גואתיה עשה נחלך תהליך וקשתך, וצא השדה וצודה לי ציד כתיב צידה. Te'elicha means your sword. Is so called because is usually hung to Louis 81 side. Sanasa is a term for sharpening, like that which we have learned one may not sharpen a knife with a stone on Yom Tov, but one may sharpen Masiah on another knife. Isaac was thus reminding Esau, sharpen your knife and slaughter the animal well, so that you not feed me a non-kosher carcass navilla. Vetsudali and trap me some game that is from animals that are ownerless, and not from stolen property. Then prepare me some delicacies to my liking, and bring them to me so that I may eat, so that I may grant you my soul's blessing before I die. דבעשה לי מטעמים כאשר אהבתי והביאה לי ואוכלה בעבור תברכך נפשי בטרם אמות. Rebekah had been listening while Isaac was speaking to his son Esau. Esau went out to the field to trap some game to bring home. ורבקה שומעת בדבר יצחק אל עשו בנו, ואלך עשבו השדה לצוד ציד להביא. לצוד ציד להביא to trap some game to bring. What is the meaning of the extra phrase to bring? Esau's intention was that if he did not find ownerless game, he would bring from stolen property anyway. When Esau left, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "I just heard your father speaking to your brother Esau, saying, ורבקה אמרה אל יעקב בנה לאמר הנה שמעתי את אביך מדבר אל עשו אחיך לאמור. Bring me some game and prepare me delicacies, so that I may eat and bless you in God's presence and with his approval before I die. זה הביאה לי ציד ועשה לי מטעמים ואוכלה, ואברכך לפני יהובה לפני מותי. לפני in God's presence means here with his permission, that he will agree to what I do. So now, my son, heed my words in regard to what I command you. חוואתיה בני שמע בקולי לאשר אני מצווה אותך. Go to the flock and bring me from their 2 choice kid goats. I will make delicacies of them, such as your father likes. תלכנה אל הצוען וקחה לי משם שנגדיי עזים טובים, ועשה אותם מטעמים לאביך כאשר אהב. וקחה לי and bring me. The kid goats are mine שלי and are not stolen, For Esau, Isaac had written for her in her marriage contract ketubah that she could take 2 kid goats every day. Bereshit Rabbah. Shnei gedayei izim 2 kid goats. Was Isaac's regular meal 2 whole kid goats? Rather, since it was Passover, Jacob offered one as Passover sacrifice and from the other, he prepared delicacies. This is stated in Perkei di Rabbi Eliezer. Kasher I have such as he likes for the taste of a kid goat is similar to or that of deer. Verse 10 You will then bring them to your father and he will eat, so that he will bless you before he dies. Vevet ala avicha ve'achal ba'avur asher yivarecha lifnei moto. Jacob said to his mother Rebekah, but my brother Esau is a hairy man, while I am a smooth-skinned man. Yivayamer Yaakov el Rebekah imo hen esachi ish se'ir ve'anochi ish chalak. Ish se'ir means a hairy man. Perhaps my father will touch me, and then he will regard me as an impostor, and I will bring a curse upon myself, not a blessing. Yavulai emusheni avi vehaiti beinav ki mita'atea, veheveti alai klala ulo bracha. Yemusheni, he will touch me. This word is of the same root as he will grok me meshesh eiti midday. His mother said to him, Let your curse be upon me, my son. Just heed my words and go and bring them to me. Yagvatamer lo imo alai kilalatcha bni achshema bekoli ulechkachali. He went and got them and brought them to his mother, and his mother prepared delicacies to his father's liking. Idveyelecha veikiacha veyavele imo vateas imo matamim kasher ahev aviv. Rebekah then took her older son Esau's clean clothes. These clothes were with her in the house. She put them on her younger son Jacob. Tvavatekeach Rebekah et bigedei Esa bena hageadola hachamudot asher ita babait v'telbesh et Yaakve bena hakeatan. Hachamudot means here the clean, as Onkelos translates it da kiata clean. Another explanation they were Esau called because he had coveted Chamadim from Nimrod. Asher ita babait that were with her in the house. Did he not have several wives, yet he entrusted them with his mother? However, the reason for this was because he was familiar with their thieving practices and was therefore suspicious of them. And placed the kid goat skins on his arms and on the smooth part of his neck. Tezuet orot agedeye haizim hi lebisha al yadav ve'al chelkat tzawarav. She then handed to her son Jacob the delicacies and the bread she had prepared. Yezvateiten et hamatamim ve'et ha'alechem asher asata beyad Yaakov bena. He came to his father and said, Father, and he replied, Here I am. Who are you, my son? Yichveyave el aviu veyamer aviv veyamer hineni mi ata beni. Jacob answered his father, It is Esau, I as your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please arise and be seated at the table, and partake of my game, so that you may grant me your soul's blessing. Itvayoamer Yaakov el avio anochi esa bechorecha asiti kasher dei baratea elai kumna shava, veach lehem itzedi ba'avur tevarachani nafshecha. Anochi esau bekorecheti esa Esau, your firstborn. I am the one who is bringing you food and Esau, I as your firstborn. Asiti I have done many things 80 different times as you told me. Sheva be seated here has the meaning of sitting at the table for a meal mesev, and therefore it is translated by onkelos es istacharti or sit around the table. Verse 20 Isaac asked his son, How did you find it so quickly, my son? He replied, Because God, your God, arranged it or happen this way for me. Kveyamer Yitzchak el bno mahazeh miharatea limatze bni veyomer, ki yikra Yehovah Elohecha lifanai. Isaac said to Jacob, Please come closer and let me touch you, my son. Are you really my son Esau? Kveyamer Yitzchak el Yaakov geshaina, va'amushecha bni ha'atea ze bni esa imlo. Geshahana va'amushecha, please come closer and let me touch you. Isaac said to himself, It is not Esau's practice to mention the name of heaven goddess so readily. Yet this one says, God, your God, arranged it. So Jacob drew close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. Kvevigeash Yaakov el Yitzchak aviv veimusheu veyoamer keola kavol Yaakov vehayadayim yedei Esau. Call Yaakov the voice of Jacob, for he speaks in a polite manner, please arise. But Esau spoke in a discourteous way, "Let my father arise." He did not recognize him, because his arms were hairy like the arms of his brother Esau. So he proceeded to prepare to bless him. כגולו הכירו כי היו ידיו כי ידי עש אחיו שעיר ויברכהו. He said, "So you really are my son Esau?" And he replied, "Iti Esai." כד ויאמר אתה זה בני עשו ויאמר אני. ויאמר אני, and he replied, "Ai." He did not say, "I am Esau," but "Ai," intending to mean "Iti Esai," but which can also be understood as "I am." Then Isaac said, "Serve me so that I may partake of my son's game, so that I may grant you my soul's blessing." Jacob served him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. כהוויאמר הגעישה לי ואוכלה מצד בני למען תברכך נפשי והגש לו ויאכל ויבא לו יין וישתה. His father Isaac said to him, "Please come close and kiss me, my son." כוויאמר אליו יצחק אביו גשנה ושקהה לי בני. He came close and kissed him, and Isaac smelled the fragrance of his garments. Isaac blessed him, he said, "See, my son's fragrance is already like the fragrance of a field that God has blessed." כזוויגשה וישקה לו וירח את עריכה בגדיו ויברכהו ויאמר ראה ריח בני כריח שדה אשר ברכו יהובה. וירחה וגו, and Isaac smelled. But surely there is no worse smell than that of goat's hair. It teaches us, however, that the fragrance of the Garden of Eden entered with Jacob. כריח שדה אשר ברכו is like the fragrance of a field that God has blessed, that is to which he has given a good scent, and that is a field of apples. So our rabbis of blessed memory explained it. Footnotes 1. Psalm 80.14 2. בית זה 28 3. בראשית רבה 65.14 4. פרקי די רבי אליעזר CH 32 5. דוטרנומי 28-29 6. ג'נסיס 27-20 7. ג'נסיס 27-19 8. ג'נסיס 27-31 9. תענית 29b 6th portion. Bereshit Genesis chapter 27. Verse 28. May God grant you of the dew of heaven, and the fat that is the choicest fruits of the land, and an abundance of grain and wine. כחביתנה לך האלוהים מתל השמיים ומשמני הארץ ורבדי הגן ותירש. ויתנה לך literally, and may God grant you. The ve of viten indicates an addition, and therefore its meaning is may he give, and give again. But according to its straightforward meaning, the ve continues the previous topic C, and my son's fragrance, which the Holy One, blessed be he, has given to him, is like the fragrance of a field, and may God also grant you of the dew of heaven. Miteal Shamaim, of the dew of heaven. Understand this literally, but there are also Agadic explanations giving many different interpretations. What is the significance of Elohim, God's name associated with a tribute of justice? It signifies that the blessings will be given with justice. If you deserve it, God will give it to you, but if not, he will not give it to you. To Esau, however, Isaac said, "Your dwelling place will be blessed with the fat of the land, whether you are righteous or wicked, God will give it to you." And from him King Solomon, upon building the holy temple, learned how to compose his prayer. An Israelite, who possesses faith and accepts the fairness of divine judgment, will not complain to you. Therefore may you grant each person according to all his ways, for you know what is in his heart. However, regarding a Gentile who lacks faith, Solomon therefore said, "May you hear in heaven, and do everything for which the Gentile prays to you. Whether or not he is deserving, grant him his request so that he will not complain to you. May people serve you, and the nations bow down to you. May you be master over your brothers, and may your mother's sons prostrate themselves before you. Those who curse you will be cursed, and those who bless you will be blessed. כי תעבדוך עמים וישתחוו כתיב, וישתחו לך לאומים הווה גביר לאחיך, וישתחו לך בני אמך עורריך ארור ומברכך ברוך. בני אמך your mother's sons. But Jacob said to Judah, your father's sons will bow down to you. This was because Jacob had sons from several mothers, whereas here, since Isaac had married only one wife, he said, your mother's sons. עורריך ארור ומברכך ברוך, those who curse you will be cursed, and those who bless you will be blessed. But in the case of Balaam, it changes the order and says, those who bless you will be blessed and those who curse you will be cursed. The difference is that the righteous first endure suffering and eventually gain tranquility, and those who curse and afflict them precede those who bless them. Therefore Isaac mentioned the curse of those who curse before the blessings of those who bless. Wicked people, however, first enjoy tranquility and later endure suffering. Therefore Balaam mentioned blessing before curse. Verse 30 it was just then, when Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and when Jacob had scarcely left his father Isaac's presence, that his brother Esau came back from his hunt. לויהי כאשר קילה יצחק לברך את יעקב, ויהי אך יצא יעקב מאת פני יצחק אביו, ועשו אחיו במצעדו. יצא had scarcely left. As one left, the other entered. He, too, had prepared delicacies and brought them to his father. He said to his father, let my father arise and partake of his son's game, so that you may give me your soul's blessing. לויעש גם הוא הטעמים ויבא לאביו ויאמר לאביו יקום אביו ויאכל להם מצד בנו בעבור תברכני נפשך. His father Isaac asked him, who are you? And he replied, I am your firstborn son, Esau. ויאמר לו יצחק אביו מעתה ויאמר, אני בנך בכורך עשו. Isaac shuddered in great bewilderment. He asked, then who was it and whereas he who trapped game and brought it to me, and I partook of it all before your arrival, and I blessed him? He will indeed be blessed. לגבי חרד יצחק חרדה הגדולה עד מאוד ויאמר מאיפה, ההוא הצד הציד ויבא לי ואוכל מקרה בטרם תבוא, ואברכהו גם ברוך יהיה. ויחרד Isaac shuddered. Its meaning here ISS Onkelos translates it utava an expression of wonder. But its midrashic explanation is saw purgatory open beneath Esau. Mi'efo then who? Efo is an independent expression which has various different usages. Here its meaning is fo, which is a combination of ifo where here. Thus mi'efo means who was me who and where is fo who trapped game. V'ochal mikol and I partook of it all that is any flavor that I desire to or taste, I tasted in that food. Gam baruch yeh, he will indeed be blessed. So that you not say, if Jacob had not deceived his father he would not have received the blessings, Isaac now consciously agreed to bless him. When Esau heard his father's words, he let out an exceedingly great and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me, too, and my father. לדכי שמע עשו את דברי אביו, ויצעק צעקה גדולה ומרה עד עמד, ויאמר לאביו ברכני גם אני אבי. He replied, your brother came with guile and took your blessing. להוויאמר בא אחיך במרמה ויקח ברכתך. במרמה literally with guile means here astutely. Esau said, I asked that why he was named Jacob Yaakov, from a cuff and snare, for telling that he would someday ensnare me twice. He took away my birthright, and now look, he has also taken my blessing. He then asked Isaac, have you not reserved a blessing for me? לביואמר אחי קרא שמו יעקב ויעקבני זה פעמיים את בכורתי לקח, והנה עתה לקחה ברכתי ויאמר הלא אצלתיה לי ברכה. אחי קרא שמו I asked that why he was named. אחי I asked a question, isn't just אחי because you are my brother? Maybe for that reason he was named Jacob Yaakov, on account of his later actions, that he was destined to ensnare me lakveni? In Midrash Tanchuma 7 it says why did Isaac tremble? He said to himself maybe I committed a sin in that I blessed the younger one before the older one and differed from the order of lineage? But Esau then began to cry out, he has ensnared me twice. His father asked him, what did he do to you? He replied, he took away my birthright. Thereupon Isaac said about this that he was distressed and afraid that maybe I had not done the proper thing, but now that I have in fact blessed the firstborn he will indeed be blessed. Vayakveni its meaning ISS Onkelos translates it uchimani, he has ambushed me. Ve'arav as translated by Onkelos S. V'chaman ND, he lies in wait. Some have the reading of Onkelos translation here as V'chamani, meaning he outwitted me. Atzalatea you reserved. This is an expression of setting aside, ini elevated ve'atzel. Isaac answered, saying to Esau, I have made a master over you, and have given him all his brothers as servants. I have sustained him with grain and wine. So what, then, there left at endo for you, my son? לזוויין יצחק ואמר לעשה, הן גביר שמתיו לך, ואת כליכיו נתתיי לעול עבדים ודגן ותירש שמחתיו, וליך אפוא מה אעשה בני. Hen gevir I have made him master over you. This blessing is the seventh of those with which Isaac blessed Jacob, yet he places it first. The reason for this was that he was in fact telling him what benefit will you have from a blessing? If you acquire possessions, they will belong to him, for I have made him master over you and whatever a servant acquires automatically belongs to his master. Ulacha pamaese means where, therefore, I seek something to for you? Esau said to his father, do you have only one blessing, my father? Father, bless me too. And Esau burst out crying. ויאמר עשה אל אביו אברך אחת יבואלך אבי ברכני גמני אבי ויישא אסקו לו ויבך. Havaracha achat literally, is there only one blessing with you. The prefix to havracha is an interrogative prefix, is in abmachani me'ar'i they in open cities. Hashmena is it rich. Hakmot naval should he die the death of a scandal? His father Isaac then replied and said to him, your dwelling will be blessed with the fat of the land and with the dew of the heavens above. לתביען יצחק אביו ויאמר אליו, הנה משמני הארץ יהיה מושבך ומתעל השמיים מעל. משמני ארץ go with the fat of the land. This refers to Italy of Yavan Greece. Verse 40 you will live by your sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you see Jacob or his descendants sinning, and therefore rightly aggrieved that they were the primary recipients of the blessings, you will be permitted to throw his yoke off your neck. מה לחרבך תחיה ואת אחיך תעבד, והיה כאשר תעריד ופרקתיה, ולאו מעל צאו האורך. ועל לחרבך literally on your sword. This is the equivalent of בחרבך by your sword. Sometimes it takes the place of the prefix bet, as in you stood by your sword al חרבכם, the equivalent of בחרבכם by the hosts על צבאותם, the equivalent of בצבאותם. תעריד, the word תעריד is an expression of pain, as in I will grieve arid in emoy lament. Its meaning therefore is when the Israelites transgress the Torah, and you then have a reason to feel aggrieved about the blessings that he took, you will be permitted to throw off his yoke. Esau harbored hatred toward his brother Jacob, because of the inferior blessing with which his father had blessed him. Esau said to himself, the days of mourning for my father will soon be here. I will wait until after his death and then kill my brother Jacob. מבייסט מסבו את יעקב על הברכה אשר ברכו אביו ויאמר עשה בליבו יקרבו ימי אבל אבי, והרגה את יעק ואחי. יקרבו ימי אבל אבי the days of mourning for my father will soon be here. Explain this according to its plain meaning I will wait until then so that I not cause my father pain. There are also Agadic explanations that give various interpretations. Rebekah was told through divine inspiration what her older son, Esau, had said to himself. She sent word and summoned her younger son, Jacob, and said to him, your brother Esau is consoling himself over the appropriation of the blessings he feels were meant for him by planning to kill you. ויוגד לרבקה את דברי עשה בנה הגד ותשלחה ותקרא ליעקב ובנה הקטן ותאמר אליו, הנה עשה אחיך מתנחמך להרגך. ויוגד לרבקה Rebecca was told. She was told through divine inspiration what Esau was thinking to himself. Mitnachemcha, this means he regrets Nicham sharing brotherly status with you and has decided to adopt a different outlook toward you, to act as a stranger towards you and kill you. But the Agadic explanation is you are already dead in his eyes, and he has already drunk the cup of consolation tanchumim for you. And according to the straightforward meaning it may also be understood as an expression of consolation, he is consoling himself over the loss of the blessings through his plans of killing you. So now, my son, listen to my words arise and flee to my brother Laban in Charan. מגועתיה בני שמע בקולי, וקאום ברחלך אל לבן אחיך רנה. Remain with him a while until your brother's anger has subsided. מדוישבתיה עמו ימים אחדים עד אשר תשוב חמת אחיך. אחדים means a few. Until your brother's rage against you has abated and he has forgotten what you did to him. I will then send word and bring you from there. Why should I be bereaved of both of you in one day? מהעד השאוב אף אחיך ממך ושכח את אשר עשית לו ושלחת, ולקחתיך משם למה האשכל גם שניכם יבוא מחד. למה אשכל means why should I be bereaved of both of you? A parent who buries his children is called shakul and so we find with Jacob, that he said just as I have been bereaved shchaltei, so will I be bereaved shchaltei. גם שניכם of both of you. She said, if he attacks you and you kill him, his children will arise and kill you. She was infused with divine inspiration and prophesied that they would die on the same day, as explained in chapter Homikon Eli Ishto. Rebecca then said to Isaac, I am disgusted with my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries a Hittite girl like these that Esau married, one of the local girls, why should I go on living? מבבת רבקה אל יצחק קצתי בחיי מפני בנות חטא אם לוקח יעקב אישה מבנות החטא כאלה מבנות הארץ למה לחיים. קצתי בחיי means I am disgusted with my life. Bereshit Genesis chapter 28. Verse 1 So Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him as follows. He instructed him, saying to him, do not take a wife from among the Canaanite girls. ויקרא יצחק אל יעקב ויברך אותו ויצאוהו, ויאמר לו לא תיקח אישה מבנות כנען. Arise and set out for Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take yourself a wife from there, from among the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. בקום לך פדן ארם ביתה בתואל אבי אמך, וקח לך משם אישה מבנות לבן אחי אמך. Padena is the equivalent of Lefadan to Padan. Beta Betuel is the same as Levate Betuel to the house of Bethuel. Regarding every word that requires ele as a prefix, one can instead put a as a suffix. And may God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and numerous, so that your descendants become a community of peoples. Goel Shaddai יברך אותך ויפרך וירבך, והיית לי קהל עמים. Ve'el Shaddai means he whose blessings are wholly sufficient Shaddai for those who are blessed by him may he bless you. May God bestow upon you the same blessing that he gave to my father Abraham for yourself and for your descendants with you, because you will take possession of the land in which you have been sojourning, which God gave to Abraham. דוד תנה לך את ברכת אברהם לך ולזרעך איתך לרשתך את הארץ מגוריך אשר נתן אלוהים לאברהם. את ברכת אברהם the blessing of Abraham. This refers to that which God had told Abraham when he told him to set out on his journey, I will make you into a great nation, and all the nations of the world will be blessed through your descendants. Let those above-mentioned blessings be fulfilled with you, that from you that great nation and those blessed descendants will emanate. Footnotes 1. Genesis 27:39 2. 1 Kings 8:39 3. 1 Kings 843 4. Genesis 49.28 5. Numbers 24.29 6. Genesis 29:15 7. תנשמיישן 23 8. דוטרנומי 19:11 9. Numbers 11:25 10. Numbers 13:19 11. Numbers 13:20 12. 2 Samuel 3:33 13. Ezekiel 33:26 14. Exodus 6:26 15. Psalms 55.23 16. Genesis 43:14 17. סוטה 13 18. Genesis 12.22 19. Genesis 22:18 7th portion. Bereshit Genesis chapter 28. Verse 5 Isaac then sent Jacob on his way, and he set out for Padan Aram, the house of Laban, son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, mother of Jacob and Esau. וישלחה יצחק את יעקב וילך פדן ארם אל לבן בן בתואל הארמי, אחי רבקה, אם יעקב ועשו. Em Yaakov ve'Esau, mother of Jacob and Esau. I do not know what this teaches you as. When Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and had sent him to Padan Aram to take himself a wife from there, and that when he blessed him he had commanded him, saying, Do not take a wife from among the Canaanite girls. וירא עשה כי ברכה יצחק את יעקב ושילחה אותו פדן ארם לקחת לה ומשם אישה בברא כאורות אבו, ויצאו עליו לאמור לו התיקח אישה מבנות כנען. And that Jacob had obeyed his father and mother, and had gone to Padan Aram. וישמע יעקב אל אביו, ואל אמו וילך פדן ארם. וישמע Yaakov, Jacob had obeyed. This is connected to the preceding statement. Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob, and that he had sent him to Padan Aram, and that Jacob had obeyed his father and gone to Padan Aram. And Esau understood from all this that the Canaanite girls were evil in Isaac's eyes, so he also went to his family, to Ishmael, to take for himself a wife. Esau understood that the Canaanite girls were evil in the eyes of his father Isaac. וירא עשה כי רעות בנות כנען בעיני יצחק אביו. So Esau went to his uncle Ishmael, and married his cousin Machlat, daughter of Abraham's son Ishmael, the sister of Nevaeh. Esau married her in addition to all his other wives. וילך עשה אל ישמעאל ויקח את מחלת, ובת ישמעאל בן אברהם אחות נביות על נשב לעולה אישה. אחות נביות, the sister of Nevaeh. By inference from what it says, daughter of Ishmael, do I not know that she was the sister of Nevaeh? Rather, these additional words teach us that Ishmael died after having betrothed her to Esau, before her marriage, and therefore Nevaeh, her brother, gave her in marriage. We see and infer that Jacob was 63 years old at that time, for Ishmael was 74 years old when Jacob was born, for Ishmael was 14 years older than Isaac, and Isaac was in his 60th year when Rebekah gave birth to Jacob and Esau, totaling 74 years, and he lived 137 years. Sat says these are the years of Ishmael's life. Thus, Jacob was 63 years old when Ishmael died. We learn from here that Jacob was hidden in the study house of Ever for 14 years, and only afterwards went to Charan, for he was in Laban's house for only 14 years before the birth of Joseph. Sat says that he worked for you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flocks. And he started to receive flocks as wages only after Joseph was born. Sat says when Rachel gave birth to Joseph. And Joseph was 30 years old when he became ruler of Egypt. And from then until Jacob descended to Egypt was 9 years, 7 years of plenty and 2 of famine, and at that time Jacob said to Pharaoh, the years of my sojourning have been 130. Make the reckoning of 14 years before Joseph's birth, 30 years of Joseph, and 9 after he became ruler until Jacob arrived, and you have 53 years, and when Jacob left his father he was 63 years old, which makes only 116 years, yet he said to Pharaoh 130 years. Thus 14 years are missing, from which you learn that after receiving the blessings he was hidden in the study house of Ever for 14 years. However, he was not punished for those years, in the merit of the Torah that he studied there. For Joseph was separated from his father for only 22 years from age 17 until 39, corresponding to the 22 years that Jacob was separated from his father, and did not fulfill his obligation to honor him, and there were the 20 years he spent in Laban's house, and the 2 years he tarried on the journey home. Sat says he built himself houses and made shelters for his livestock, and our rabbis of blessed memory inferred from this verse that he stayed 18 months on the way for a house is for the rainy season, and shelters are for the sunny season, plus another 6 months in Bethel. Yet according to the calculation of the verses that we made before, from the time he left his father until he came to Egypt, when he was 130 years old, we find an additional 14 years. It must be, however, that he was concealed in the study house of Ever on his way to Laban's house, in order to learn Torah from Ever, but in the merit of the Torah he was not punished for those years. And Joseph was only separated from him for 22 years, measure for measure. Al-Nashav, in addition to all his other wives. He added an evil act to his previous evil act by not divorcing his first wives, which made it clear that he had not in fact repented, and his new marriage was also an act of hypocrisy. Footnotes 1. Genesis 25-26 2. Genesis 25-17 3. Genesis 31-41 4. Genesis 30.25 5. Genesis 47.9 6. Genesis 33.17 7. מג'לה 17a